trying so hard to make you react means something. It means they recognize something dangerous about your peace. They fear it. Toxic people expect anger. They prepare for shouting. They anticipate emotional explosions. They're ready for chaos and drama. But they don't know what to do with someone who remains calm. Someone who refuses to give them the reaction they're seeking. That calmness confuses them. Because calmness means control. And control is something they cannot influence. In this video, we'll explore 7 dimensions of how toxic people operate. And more importantly, how to protect yourself from them. Not through anger or revenge, but through something they fear much more. Through peace, through discipline, through boundaries, through character, through understanding what truly gives you power in these situations. By the end, you'll see toxic people differently. You'll understand why they do what they do. And you'll know exactly how to protect what they're trying to steal. Toxic people are studying you carefully, constantly. They learn what hurts you, what embarrasses you, what triggers your anger, what disappoints you deeply. They memorize your weaknesses like a map. Why? Because their goal is control. And control requires understanding your pressure points. But here's what's important. They're not after your money. Not really after your time. Not after your possessions. They're after something more valuable. Your emotional reaction. Because if they control your emotions, they control your thoughts. If they control your thoughts, they control your decisions. If they control your decisions, they own you. That's why toxic people work so hard to make you react. One insult, one criticism, one disrespectful comment. Each one is designed to trigger you. And when you react emotionally, they win. You've given them your power. You've proven they can move you. But watch what happens when you stay calm. When you refuse to give them the reaction they expected. When you respond with peace instead of anger. Something shifts immediately. They become confused because they prepared for chaos. They prepared for shouting. They prepared for emotional drama. But they don't know what to do with calmness. With someone who simply doesn't react, that calmness becomes intimidating because it's outside their control. They cannot manipulate what they cannot predict. This is why emotional control is actually power, not weakness. Real power. Because the moment someone cannot make you angry, their influence disappears. You're no longer a puppet they can control by pulling emotional strings. You're a person they cannot move. And that terrifies manipulative people. Toxic people hate boundaries. They hate independence. They hate people who won't give them reactions. Because reactions mean connection. Emotional responses mean investment. Drama means you still care. But peace? Peace means something different. Real peace begins when your heart stops depending on people more than Allah. Peace means they no longer matter enough to disturb you. And that is exactly what they fear most. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop seeing toxic people as powerful. You see them as limited. They can only manipulate people who react emotionally, but you won't react. So their power over you ends. That's the recognition. That's the first step. Understanding that their attacks aren't working because you're weak. They're working because you haven't learned to protect your peace. Once you learn that protection, they become powerless. Toxic people fear your peace more than they fear your anger because peace means they've lost control. The Prophet ﷺ taught something powerful. The strong person is not one who overpowers others physically, but the one who controls themselves when angry. This is the Islamic definition of strength. Not muscles, not aggression, not loudness, control. And this is where many people become confused. They think emotional control means becoming emotionless. That's wrong. A disciplined person still feels anger, still feels hurt, still feels disappointment, still feels betrayal, but they don't let emotions control their actions. That's the difference between maturity and immaturity. Many people confuse feeling with expressing. They think, if I feel angry, I must show it. If I feel hurt, I must react to it. No. You can feel something and choose not to act on it. That's maturity. One emotional moment can destroy years of respect. One angry message can ruin relationships permanently. One impulsive reaction can damage your reputation for years. Yet people do this constantly. They react emotionally. They say things in anger. Then they spend years apologizing. Toxic people count on this weakness. They know that emotional people make mistakes. Emotional people say things they regret. Emotional people act without thinking. Emotional people are easier to manipulate because their reactions are predictable. You can provoke them the same way every time. But disciplined people, they're unpredictable. They don't react the way you expect. That unpredictability makes them impossible to control. This is why wise people pause before responding. That small moment, that pause, in that moment, the emotion passes. The mind calms down. Clarity returns. And from clarity, you can respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. The response is completely different from the reaction. A reaction happens instantly. It's emotional. It's often regretted. A response happens after thought. It's wise. It's something you can defend later. Many people spend their lives trapped in reactions. They react at work. They react at home. They react online. One emotion leads to another. One regret leads to another. But disciplined people live differently. They pause, they think, they respond, and that discipline protects them. It protects their peace, their dignity, their relationships. And it protects them from toxic people who are deliberately trying to make them lose control. Because when you refuse to give them the emotional reaction they're seeking, you protect yourself from their manipulation. Your calm becomes your shield. Your discipline becomes your armor. And toxic people cannot penetrate a shield made of emotional control. They throw insults at it, the insults bounce off, they try provocations, you don't react. Eventually they give up. Because you've proven you cannot be moved. That's the power of emotional control. Not that you feel less, but that your feelings don't control you. Emotional control is not weakness. It's the rare strength that toxic people cannot penetrate. One of the hardest lessons in life is this. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Yet many people keep opening doors to the same people over and over, hoping maybe this time they changed. Maybe this time things will be different. But the signs were already clear. The disrespect, the manipulation, the constant negativity, the emotional exhaustion. And still people ignore the warning signs. Why? Because they fear being alone more than they fear losing their peace. But listen carefully. Loneliness is painful. But losing yourself while keeping toxic people in your life is even more painful. At least loneliness gives you space to heal. Toxic environments keep reopening the wound. Many people misunderstand kindness. They think kindness means tolerating unlimited disrespect. They think being good means allowing people to repeatedly hurt them. They think patience means accepting emotional abuse forever. No, that's not wisdom. That's self-destruction. You can forgive someone and still create distance. That's not cruelty, that's wisdom. You can wish someone well and still remove them from your daily life. You can make dua for someone while understanding they're unhealthy for your future. Forgiveness does not always mean reconnection. And this is crucial to understand. Every time you speak to certain people, your energy drops, your motivation disappears, your peace vanishes. You carry emotional heaviness everywhere you go. That's a sign. Pay attention to it. Distance is sometimes necessary. Not because you hate the person, but because protecting your peace is protecting your life. Many people become emotionally trapped because they confuse guilt with responsibility. They think, if I walk away, I'm a bad person. If I distance myself, I'm cruel. No, setting boundaries is not cruelty. It's self-respect. How long will you sacrifice your peace just to keep toxic people comfortable? Some people only know how to take your energy, take your kindness, take your peace. And after spending time with them, you feel drained instead of uplifted. That's not healthy. That's a warning sign. The people around you influence your future more than you realize. If you surround yourself with negativity long enough, it affects your thinking, your emotions, your habits, your relationship with Allah. That's why environment matters. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step back quietly. No dramatic speech, no emotional announcement, no explanation needed, just distance. Because mature people understand this clearly. Not every separation needs noise. Not every decision requires you to justify it to others. You can walk away silently. You can create distance without drama. And that quiet distance is often more powerful than any explanation you could give. Because silence removes the conversation. And without conversation, there's no opportunity for manipulation. Distance isn't cruelty. It's the wisdom to protect your peace from people designed to destroy it. One of the biggest traps toxic people set is this. They want you to become like them. They insult you, so they expect you to insult back. They disrespect you, so they expect you to abandon your dignity. They gossip about you, so they expect you to gossip back. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin becoming the very thing you hated. That is how toxic people truly win. Not when they hurt you initially, but when they change who you are. Your character is one of the most valuable things you own. Once people lose trust in your character, rebuilding that respect becomes extremely difficult. Many people destroy years of respect in just a few emotional moments. One angry outburst, one ugly argument, one hateful message. And suddenly people don't remember your patience. They don't remember your kindness. They remember your reaction. This is why toxic people often provoke you publicly. They want you to react badly. Because then everyone notices your explosion instead of their manipulation. Your character becomes the problem, not their behavior. But wise people understand something deeper. Your behavior is a reflection of your values, not other people's behavior. You don't become good because others are good to you. You remain good because goodness is your principle. That's true strength. Anyone can act nicely when life is easy. Anyone can smile when everything goes their way. But your real character appears when you're tested, when you're angry, when you're betrayed, when you're disrespected. That's when your reality shows. Can you still control your tongue? Can you still walk away peacefully? Can you still speak with dignity? Or does one insult completely transform your personality? Because secure people move differently. They don't expose every emotion publicly. They don't react to every insult. They don't prove themselves constantly. Why? Because secure people don't need constant validation. Insecure people scream for attention everywhere. Secure people remain focused. And maintaining character is how you stay secure. Toxic people want you to abandon your principles. Why? Because it makes them feel less guilty about their own behavior. Think about it carefully. If they drag you into ugliness, now both of you look the same, so they feel better about themselves. But you lose something precious, your dignity. That's why maintaining character confuses toxic people. They expect you to become bitter. They expect you to become hateful. They expect you to lose control. But you don't. You remain disciplined. And that discipline becomes intimidating. Because when you keep your character intact while others lose theirs, you reveal something. You reveal that you have control, that you have principles, that you're stronger than they are. And toxic people cannot stand being exposed as weaker. Walking away with your character intact is stronger than destroying someone while damaging yourself. One creates temporary satisfaction, the other creates permanent respect. And one permanent consequence, a damaged reputation, is far worse than any temporary revenge could ever be. Maintaining character is more powerful than revenge. It's the strength toxic people cannot defeat. One of the biggest mistakes people make after being hurt is this. They become obsessed with revenge. They stop focusing on their future. They start focusing on the person who wronged them. Their enemy begins controlling their life emotionally, constantly, day after day. Revenge keeps your mind chained to the past. You keep replaying conversations, replaying betrayal, replaying disrespect, replaying what they said and what you should have said back. Meanwhile, your own life stops moving forward. This is how people waste years. Not because their enemies were stronger, but because bitterness consumed their focus. And bitterness is expensive. It costs you your future. But you know what truly destroys toxic people? Not revenge, success. Watching you succeed without them. Watching you heal when they expected you to stay broken. Watching you smile when they expected emotional collapse. Watching you improve while they're stuck in negativity. That hurts them deeply. Because toxic people believe your life should become miserable after they hurt you. They want evidence that they still affect you emotionally. They want to see you suffering. But when you continue growing, when you continue building your future, when you continue becoming stronger spiritually, mentally, financially, their control disappears. And that is real victory. Many people think revenge means hurting someone back. No. The highest level of success is becoming so focused on your purpose that you no longer have time to hate. Think about successful people. Do you think disciplined people spend all day planning revenge? No. They're too busy building themselves, too busy improving, too busy learning, too busy growing closer to Allah, too busy creating a better future. Meanwhile, toxic people remain trapped in jealousy, gossip, and negativity. And there's something important to understand about jealous people. Jealous people are disturbed by your progress. Even your happiness irritates them. Your peace irritates them. Your confidence irritates them. Your discipline irritates them. Why? Because your growth reminds them of everything they failed to become. That's why some people secretly become angry when your life improves. Not because you harmed them, but because your success exposes their insecurity. This is why your focus matters so much. Where attention goes, energy flows. If all your energy goes toward revenge, hatred, and emotional drama, your own growth suffers. But if your energy goes toward discipline, healing, learning, and worship, your entire life changes. Some people spend years trying to destroy others. Successful people spend years building themselves. Who wins in the end? The builder always defeats the destroyer. Because destruction creates temporary satisfaction, but growth creates permanent transformation. Let your success be your response. Let your healing be your answer. Let your peace be your victory. Because at the end of the day, success speaks louder than any revenge ever could. When someone expected you to fail, but you become stronger instead, that creates impact. When someone expected you to break, but you become wiser instead, that creates impact. When someone tried to destroy your confidence, but you become more disciplined and focused instead, that creates impact. People expect revenge. They expect emotional chaos. They expect hate. What shocks them is growth. And that shock is worth far more than any satisfaction revenge could give. Success is your greatest revenge, and it's the only victory worth pursuing. One of the heaviest burdens a person can carry is obsession with getting justice immediately. You want people exposed. You want consequences. You want those who hurt you to suffer now. And when that doesn't happen, many people become emotionally exhausted, spiritually weak. They start questioning everything. Why are they succeeding after hurting me? Why are they smiling after betraying me? Why does it seem like bad people always win? Listen carefully. Just because Allah is silent doesn't mean He's unaware. Just because punishment is delayed doesn't mean it will never come. One of the greatest sources of peace in life is understanding that Allah sees everything. Everything. People try to hide. The fake smiles, the manipulation, the betrayal, the lies spoken in darkness, the secret conversations. Nothing escapes Him. People can fool society. People can manipulate appearances. People can act innocent publicly while privately destroying others. But nobody deceives Allah. And this is why the believer sleeps differently. Because even when people misunderstand you, even when people lie about you, even when your pain is ignored by others, Allah knows the full story. Allah sees what happened. Allah heard what was said. Allah witnessed what was done. That should calm your heart more than revenge ever will. Because Allah's knowledge is complete. His justice is perfect. Many people destroy themselves emotionally carrying battles that belong to Allah. They become consumed by anger, consumed by hatred, consumed by the need to win. Slowly, revenge becomes their entire personality. They wake up angry, sleep angry, think angry. Their entire mind becomes occupied by one person. Meanwhile, the person who hurt them continues living freely because they've moved on. But you're trapped. That's emotional imprisonment, and it's self-inflicted. This is why trust in Allah is powerful. Because trust allows you to release burdens you were never meant to carry alone. You know what destroys many people? Not pain itself. It's overthinking the pain constantly, replaying betrayal again and again, imagining revenge scenarios, obsessing over what should happen to certain people. And eventually the emotional exhaustion becomes unbearable. But the believer understands something deeper. Allah's justice doesn't operate according to your emotions. It operates according to perfect wisdom. Sometimes Allah delays consequences because He's giving people time to repent. Sometimes Allah delays consequences because their punishment is being saved for something greater. Sometimes Allah allows difficult people into your life not to destroy you, but to develop you. That's what many people fail to understand. Some enemies are actually tests. Tests of patience. Tests of emotional control. Tests of trust in Allah. Tests of character. Many people fail those tests because they're consumed by ego. They think, I must personally destroy this person. I must humiliate them. I must expose them. But some battles are too heavy for your heart to carry. That's why tawakkul, trusting Allah completely, is so powerful. Tawakkul gives emotional relief. It reminds you that you're not responsible for controlling every outcome in life. Your responsibility is to remain sincere, remain patient, remain disciplined, remain connected to Allah. Allah handles what's beyond your control, and that is enough. You cannot control how people behave. But you can control your own response. You cannot control their consequences. But you can trust in Allah's perfect justice. And perhaps one of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity is this. You stop needing revenge to feel peace. Some people cannot sleep peacefully unless they get even. But spiritually strong people understand that peace doesn't come from revenge. It comes from surrendering your pain to Allah. Because revenge may satisfy your ego temporarily, but trust in Allah heals the heart deeply. And let me tell you something important. Allah's justice is perfect precisely because it's not emotional. Human beings are emotional, angry, impatient. We want instant results, but Allah sees the entire picture. And many times people think someone escaped consequences simply because they can't see what's happening privately. You have no idea what guilt someone carries, what emptiness they carry, what internal punishment may already exist. Some people smile publicly while internally they're collapsing. That's why you should never obsess over watching people's downfall. Focus on your own journey, because bitterness distracts you from your purpose. It stops your healing. It stops your progress. And when your relationship with Allah becomes strong, people lose the ability to completely destroy you emotionally. Because your heart no longer depends entirely on people. It depends on Allah. And that changes everything. Suddenly, betrayal hurts less. Rejection hurts less. Insults hurt less. Not because you became emotionless, but because your trust shifted from people to Allah. Allah's justice is perfect precisely because it's not emotional trust which you cannot see. One of the fastest ways to destroy your own peace, dignity, and reputation is through an uncontrolled tongue. Many people don't realize this until the damage is already done. One angry sentence can destroy years of trust. One emotional reaction can ruin relationships permanently. One careless moment can create regret that follows you for years. That's why controlling your tongue is not a small thing. It's serious. Because words are powerful. Words can heal people, but words can also destroy hearts. And toxic people understand something dangerous. If they can make you lose control emotionally, eventually your tongue will expose your weakness. That's why they provoke you. They insult you, mock you, disrespect you, push your emotional buttons repeatedly. Why? Because emotional people say reckless things. And once words leave your mouth, you cannot pull them back. Many people spend years apologizing for a few seconds of anger. Think carefully about how many relationships were destroyed because somebody spoke while emotional. Families broken, friendships destroyed, marriages damaged, reputations ruined, not because the situation was impossible to fix, but because somebody lost control of their tongue. One of the signs of wisdom is learning when silence is more powerful than speech. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Not every insult deserves your attention. Sometimes your silence says more than words ever could. You know what's dangerous about anger? Anger makes temporary emotions feel permanent. In the moment, you feel justified. You feel powerful. You feel like you must say something immediately. But later, when emotions calm down, regret arrives. That's why wise people pause before responding emotionally. They understand that emotional moments create permanent consequences. And social media has made this problem even worse. Today, people react instantly. Instant anger, instant posting, instant emotional explosions. People type things in 30 seconds that damage their image for years. And toxic people love this because emotional reactions expose weakness publicly. Sometimes toxic people intentionally provoke you just to watch you embarrass yourself. They stay calm while you lose control. Then suddenly everyone only notices your reaction. This is why emotional discipline is protection. Real protection. Most people speak first and think later. But disciplined people understand something important. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you must say it. That's maturity. Not every thought deserves expression. Some thoughts are emotional, some thoughts are temporary. Some thoughts are born from anger, pride, jealousy, ego, and if you speak from those emotions carelessly, you hurt yourself. You know what strong people do? They master the pause, that small moment before reacting, that moment where you stop and ask yourself, will these words solve anything? Will I respect this reaction tomorrow? Am I speaking from wisdom or emotion? That pause can save your entire life. Many people destroy themselves because they confuse honesty with recklessness. They say, I just speak my mind, I tell it like it is. No, lack of self-control is not honesty. Wisdom is knowing how to speak truth without destroying people unnecessarily. Being harsh does not automatically make somebody wise. Sometimes it simply means they're emotionally immature. And understand this carefully. Toxic people often want you to become loud because loud people lose clarity. The more emotional you become, the more mistakes you make. That's why manipulative people try to keep you emotionally unstable. They want you angry. They want you frustrated. They want you reacting impulsively because emotional people are easier to control. But calm people are dangerous. Calm people think before speaking. Calm people choose their words carefully. Calm people refuse to let emotions control their tongue. And that level of discipline terrifies toxic people because now they cannot manipulate you easily anymore. A controlled tongue also protects your dignity. Many people lose respect not because they were wronged, but because of how they reacted afterward. People remember emotional explosions. People remember public humiliation. People remember disrespectful speech. That's what sticks in people's minds. That's why protecting your tongue protects your reputation. And one of the clearest signs of emotional intelligence is this. You stop needing the last word. Immature people always need to win conversations, always need to respond, always need to prove themselves. But mature people understand that peace is more valuable than unnecessary arguments. Sometimes walking away silently is the highest form of strength. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you realized the conversation was beneath your peace. Your tongue reflects the condition of your heart. A heart full of anger produces harsh speech. A heart full of arrogance produces insulting speech. A heart full of jealousy produces toxic speech. That's why controlling the tongue starts with purifying the heart, because words are simply the expression of what's inside. A controlled tongue is a shield. It protects what toxic people are trying to damage. Toxic people target your peace because peace is the one thing they cannot control. They expect anger. They expect revenge. They expect you to become like them. They expect drama. They expect you to lose control. But when you respond with emotional discipline instead, when you protect your peace instead of defending your ego, when you build your future instead of destroying theirs, when you trust Allah instead of obsessing over justice, when you master your tongue instead of losing control, something shifts. You move beyond their reach. You become uncontrollable. And that is exactly what they fear most. Because control is the only power toxic people have. And you've just taken that away. The 7 tools you've learned, recognizing their tactics, emotional control, wise distance, character, success, trust in Allah, and mastery of speech, these aren't about defeating toxic people. They're about removing yourself from the battlefield entirely. They're about moving to a different level where toxic people cannot reach you. Oh Allah, protect our hearts from the bitterness that toxic people create. Give us the wisdom to know when to speak and when to remain silent.